Commander Jake Morrison stepped off the transport ship onto a gleaming metal platform of Nexus Prime. The space station hung in the void between three suns, serving as the neutral meeting ground for the Galactic Federation. He had dreamed of this moment for 20 years, ever since he first learned that humans were not alone in the universe. The air here tasted different, processed through alien machines that hummed with technologies Earth barely understood. Jake adjusted his formal uniform and checked his appearance one last time. Today would determine humanity's future among the stars. Admiral Lisa Torres walked beside him, her face calm, but her eyes showing the stress of 3 months of preparation. She carried a datapad containing humanity's greatest achievements, compiled from every colony world across 12 star systems. Behind them, Captain Ben Rodriguez and Dr. Amy Carter completed their small delegation. "Remember," Torres said quietly as they approached the massive council chamber doors, "we represent 6 billion humans today. Every word matters." The doors opened without a sound, revealing a vast circular room that took Jake's breath away. 47 different species sat in tiered seats that rose toward a crystalline dome showing the stars beyond. Some aliens floated in tanks of colored liquid. Others perched on metal branches or rested on heated stone platforms. The diversity was overwhelming. Jake had studied the major species for months, but seeing them in person was different. The Zephyrians looked like tall, thin humans with silver skin and large black eyes. The hegemony representatives were living crystals that pulsed with inner light. Floating jellyfish-like beings from the coral worlds drifted near the ceiling. Chancellor Vex of the Zephyrian Empire called the session to order. His voice carried through hidden speakers, translated instantly into perfect English. The human delegation requests membership in the Galactic Federation for the 3rd time. The floor recognizes Admiral Torres of Earth. Torres walked to the center of the chamber, her footsteps echoing in the silence. She activated her presentation, and holographic displays showed Earth's blue oceans and green continents spinning slowly above the gathered aliens. "Honored representatives," Torres began, "humanity has grown much since our first contact 100 years ago. We have established peaceful colonies on 12 worlds. Our population has grown to 6 billion. Souls living in harmony across multiple star systems." The hologram changed to show human cities on different planets. Glass towers rose from desert worlds, while underwater domes housed millions beneath alien seas. Jake felt pride swell in his chest as he watched his species' achievements displayed for the galaxy to see. "Our medical technology has eliminated most diseases," Torres continued. "We have extended human lifespan to over 200 years. Our fusion reactors provide clean energy to every human settlement." Captain Rodriguez watched the alien faces carefully. Some seemed interested, but many looked bored or dismissive. The hegemony representative, a massive crystal being named Korath, pulsed with what Rodriguez had learned was their equivalent of a laugh. Torres activated the next display, showing human ships traveling between the stars. "Our faster-than-light drives can cross the galaxy in months. We have explored over 300 star systems and made contact with 17 new species. In every case, we have approached with peaceful intentions." Dr. Carter stepped forward as the presentation moved to scientific achievements. Human researchers have made breakthroughs in quantum physics, biological enhancement, and artificial intelligence. We have solved problems that challenged us for centuries. The hologram showed human laboratories, factories, and research stations. Scientists worked alongside robots and computers, pushing the boundaries of knowledge. Engineering teams built massive space habitats that rotated to provide artificial gravity. "We have much to offer the Federation," Torres said, her voice growing stronger with passion. "Human creativity and determination have overcome every challenge we have faced. We ask only for the chance to contribute to the greater galactic community. The presentation ended, leaving the chamber in silence. Jake held his breath, watching the alien faces for any sign of their reaction. Some species whispered among themselves in languages the translators could not handle. Chancellor Vex stood first. His silver skin seemed to glow under the chambers lights as he looked down at the human delegation. The Zephyrian Empire has reviewed humanity's application carefully. While we acknowledge certain achievements, we find significant deficiencies. Jake's heart sank, but he kept his expression neutral. Torres had warned him this might happen, but hearing it still hurt. Human technology remains primitive by Federation standards, Vex continued. Your weapons are still based on projectile systems rather than energy manipulation. Your ships use fusion drives instead of quantum displacement engines. Your computers process information linearly rather than through dimensional matrices. Other representatives began voicing their concerns. A floating coral world delegate spoke through bubbling water sounds that the translator converted to words. Humans show excessive reliance on physical labor. Advanced species have moved beyond such crude methods. Koreth's crystal form blazed brighter as he addressed the chamber. The hegemony has observed human colonies extensively. They solve complex problems through brute force rather than elegant technological solutions. Their mining operations use explosives and heavy machinery where we would use molecular disassembly. Rodriguez felt his jaw clench as the criticisms continued. Everything humans were proud of, the aliens dismissed as backward and primitive. Their determination became stubbornness. Their adaptability became crude improvisation. A representative from the machine worlds, a robotic being with multiple arms and sensor arrays, projected images of human factories. Observe their manufacturing processes. They employ biological workers performing manual tasks. This is inefficient compared to automated systems used by civilized species. Torres tried to respond. Our people take pride in their work. Human hands can adapt to tasks that machines cannot handle. Exactly. The problem, Vex interrupted. Advanced species have evolved beyond such limitations. You cling to primitive biological functions that proper technology makes unnecessary. The debate continued for 2 hours, but Jake could see the outcome was already decided. Speaker after speaker criticized humanity's approach to technology, calling them muscle-bound primitives who had not learned to work with their minds instead of their bodies. Only 4 species spoke in humanity's defense. The peaceful Andrari, with their feathered wings and kind eyes, praised human creativity and compassion. But their voices were drowned out by the majority. When the final vote was called, Jake watched with growing despair as species after species rejected humanity's application. The final tally was devastating. 43 votes against, only 4 in favor. Koreth delivered the formal rejection. The Galactic Federation requires member species to demonstrate technological sophistication and evolutionary advancement. Humanity has shown neither. You remain a muscle-bound species that solves problems through brute force rather than intelligence. Torres stood straight despite the crushing verdict. We thank the Federation for their consideration. Humanity will continue to grow and develop. Perhaps we will meet again under better circumstances. As they walked back toward the transport, Rodriguez felt anger building in his chest. He had watched aliens who had never lifted anything heavier than a datapad criticize humans for using their hands. Species who relied completely on machines to think for them called humans primitive for solving problems themselves. Jake Morrison looked back at the console chamber one last time. In there, beings who floated in tanks and let computers make their decisions had just declared that humanity was too stupid to join their club. The irony was not lost on him. On the transport back to Earth, the delegation sat in silence for the first hour. Finally, Torres spoke. They fear us. Fear us? Carter asked. They just called us cavemen playing with stolen fire. Exactly, Torres replied. They fear what we represent. We do things they cannot do anymore. We work with our hands. We solve problems without asking a computer for permission. We adapt when our technology fails. Rodriguez nodded slowly. They have forgotten how to be strong on their own. As Earth grew larger in the viewport, Jake Morrison made a quiet promise to himself. Someday, those aliens would regret underestimating humanity. They thought humans were primitive because they were strong. Perhaps it was time to show them just how dangerous primitive strength could be. 6 months after the rejection, Admiral Ben Rodriguez stood on the observation deck of the space station orbiting New Denver, watching the last human transport ship leave the Kepler system. The Federation had given humanity 30 days to withdraw from all disputed territories. Now their colonists were homeless refugees, packed into ships heading back to the 12 systems the aliens had decided humans were allowed to keep. Rodriguez had been promoted after Jake Morrison took early retirement. The rejection had broken. Something in the older man, but it had lit a fire in Rodriguez. He watched Federation patrol ships escort the human transports to the border, making sure no one lingered behind. Sir, incoming message from Earth Command, his aide reported. Rodriguez turned from the window. Put it through. Admiral Lisa Torres appeared on the main screen. Dark circles under her eyes showed the strain of the past months. Ben, I need you back on Earth immediately. We have a situation. What kind of situation? The kind we discuss in person only. 2 days later, Rodriguez sat in a secure conference room deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Torres paced in front of a massive display showing the galaxy with human territories marked in blue. The blue areas looked pathetically small compared to the vast green regions controlled by the Federation. Dr. Amy Carter sat across from Rodriguez, her face grim. Beside her, General Paul Mitchell reviewed files on his tablet. Rodriguez had served with Mitchell during the colony wars 20 years ago. The man never looked worried unless something was seriously wrong. Tell him what you found, Amy, Torres sighed. Carter activated her own display. I have been studying Federation technology for the past year, trying to understand why our application was rejected. What I found was disturbing. The screen showed technical diagrams comparing human and alien systems. Look at these trade agreements from the past 50 years. Notice anything? Rodriguez studied the charts. Slowly, a pattern emerged. They have been selling us their old technology while buying our newest innovations. Exactly. And not just buying them. Look at patent registrations in Federation databases. Carter pulled up another display. Human inventions registered under alien names. Human medical breakthroughs credited to Zephyrian researchers. Our fusion drive improvements listed as hegemony developments. They have been stealing from us, Rodriguez said flatly. Worse than that, Carter's voice grew angry. They have been deliberately keeping us dependent. Every piece of technology they sold us requires Federation maintenance contracts. Our ships cannot be repaired without their spare parts. Our computers run on their operating systems. General Mitchell finally spoke. Show him the colony reports. Carter pulled up files from the abandoned settlements. When our people evacuated, they left behind everything they could not carry. Federation salvage teams arrived within hours. They stripped every human facility down to the bare metal. They wanted our infrastructure all along, Rodriguez realized. The rejection was planned. Torres stopped pacing. It gets worse. Show him what Elena found. Captain Elena Vasquez appeared on screen from her ship somewhere in deep space. Her scout vessel looked battered, with scorch marks on the hull. Admiral Rodriguez, I have been conducting reconnaissance missions along the Federation border for 3 months. What I discovered will make you sick. Vasquez transmitted her recordings. The screen filled with images of alien worlds where primitive species worked in massive mining operations. Beings who looked barely capable of spaceflight operated complex machinery under the supervision of Federation overseers. These species were contacted by the Federation centuries ago, Vasquez continued. They were told they lacked the intelligence for Federation membership. Now they provide cheap labor for alien corporations. Rodriguez watched in horror as the recording showed entire civilizations reduced to slavery. Beings who might have developed their own space technology were kept primitive and dependent. The Federation does not reject species because they are not advanced enough, Torres said quietly. They reject them to exploit them. Mitchell stood and walked to the display. Which brings us to the real problem. Federation ships have been intercepting human vessels for the past month. They claim security concerns, but they are studying our people. Studying us how? Medical examinations. Physical capability tests. They are trying to understand how humans work without their technology. Mitchell's voice was grim. I think they plan to do to us what they did to those other species. Rodriguez felt cold despite the room's warmth. Turn us into slaves. Think about it, Carter said. Humans can work in environments that would kill most Federation species. We adapt quickly to new situations. We solve problems with our hands. When technology fails, for a civilization that has forgotten how to do physical labor, we would be incredibly valuable. Torres activated another display showing Federation ship movements. Their patrol vessels are massing along our borders. They are calling it a peacekeeping mission, but intelligence suggests otherwise. How long do we have? Rodriguez asked. Maybe 6 months before they make their move, Mitchell replied. Which is why I'm starting a new project. Something I am calling Ire Resolution. What kind of project? Mitchell smiled for the first time since Rodriguez had arrived. The kind that reminds the galaxy why you should never corner a human. 3 weeks later, Rodriguez found himself on a secret facility, built inside an asteroid in the outer system. Hundreds of humans worked around the clock in laboratories and workshops that looked nothing like the sleek Federation facilities he was used to. Dr. Susan Parker, Carter's former student, showed him around. We are developing technology using only human knowledge and materials. No alien components, no Federation databases, nothing they can control or shut down. Rodriguez watched engineers building what looked like a massive engine. What is that? Fusion drive, but not like anything we have built before. Federation quantum drives are faster, but they require exotic matter that only certain species can produce. Our drives use materials we can find anywhere. They moved to another section where soldiers practiced with weapons Rodriguez had never seen. Kinetic weapons, Parker explained. The Federation uses energy weapons that require sophisticated targeting computers and power systems. These just fire metal projectiles very fast. Primitive, Rodriguez observed. Exactly what they will think until one punches through their shield generators. The soldier demonstrating the weapon was Elena Vasquez, back from her scouting mission. Energy shields are designed to stop energy weapons. They do not handle physical impacts well. Rodriguez spent 3 days touring the facility. He watched engineers design ships that could be built in any human factory using basic materials. He saw soldiers training with equipment that would work even if every computer on the ship failed. Most impressive were the people themselves. Cut off from Federation support systems, humans had begun remembering skills their grandparents took for granted. They repaired things with their hands instead of replacing them. They solved problems by trying different approaches instead of consulting databases. On his last day, Rodriguez met with Mitchell in his office overlooking the main work floor. Through the window, they could see hundreds of humans building humanity's future with their own hands. The Federation thinks we are primitive, Because we use muscle instead of machines, Mitchell said. They are about to learn that sometimes primitive is better. How many people know about this? Every human colony has a cell. We have been recruiting quietly for months. Engineers, soldiers, doctors, teachers. Anyone who remembers how to work. Without alien technology. Rodriguez watched a team of workers assembling what looked like a communications array. What happens when the Federation notices what we are doing? Mitchell's expression hardened. Then we find out if humans are really as primitive as they think we are. As Rodriguez prepared to leave the facility, Parker handed him a sealed package. For Admiral Torres. Technical specifications for the new drives. We should have prototypes ready for testing within the month. On the transport back to Earth, Rodriguez opened the package and studied the designs. The engineering was brilliant. In its simplicity, where Federation technology required exotic materials and complex manufacturing processes, these drives used principles any human engineer could understand. The aliens had spent centuries developing increasingly complex solutions to basic problems. Humans were about to remind them that sometimes the simplest answer was the best one. Rodriguez thought about the enslaved species he had seen in Vasquez's recordings. They had been contacted by a superior civilization and told they were not good enough to join. Now they worked in mines and factories, their own potential forgotten. The Federation had made a critical error with humanity. They had given humans time to prepare and motivation to fight. More importantly, they had underestimated what 6 billion angry humans could accomplish when they decided to solve a problem the hard way. Looking out at the stars, Rodriguez made a promise to every enslaved species in Federation space. Humans were coming, and they were bringing the one thing the galaxy had forgotten how to use: their own strength. 5 years had passed since the Federation's rejection, and Dr. Amy Carter stood in her laboratory on Mars looking at results that would change everything. The data on her screen showed measurements that seemed impossible, but she had checked them dozens of times. "Computer, run the cellular regeneration analysis again," she said. The results were the same. Human muscle tissue could repair itself 3 times faster than any known alien species. Human bone density increased under stress, while alien bones became brittle without technological support. Most shocking of all, human brain chemistry adapted to new situations in ways that other species required genetic modification to achieve. Carter called her research team together. Dr. Susan Parker arrived first, followed by biologists from every human colony. They gathered around the main display as Carter shared her findings. "We have been looking at this backwards," Carter began. "The Federation called us primitive because we rely on physical strength and manual labor. They were wrong. We do not rely on these things because we are primitive. We rely on them because we are superior." Parker studied the data. "These healing rates are incredible. A human can recover from injuries that would permanently disable a Zephyrian. It gets better." Carter continued. "Look at stress response data. When faced with equipment failure, human performance actually improves. We get stronger and think faster under pressure. Every other species we tested shows decreased performance when their technology fails." The implications were staggering. While other species had evolved to depend on their machines, humans had evolved to thrive without them. What the aliens saw as weakness was actually humanity's greatest strength. Meanwhile, across the solar system in the asteroid belt, engineer Marcus Webb was proving Carter's theories in the most practical way possible. His team had just completed the first test of their new propulsion system, and the results exceeded all expectations. Webb watched the test ship accelerate away from the asteroid base at speeds that should have been impossible. The drive used no exotic matter, no quantum fields, no dimensional manipulation. It was pure human engineering applied to basic physics in ways the Federation had never considered. "How fast is she going?" asked his assistant, looking at the sensor. "Readings. Faster than any Federation quantum drive we have data on," Webb replied. "And she will keep going until she runs out of fuel, which should be about 6 months from now." The Federation drives were faster for short distances, but they required constant exotic matter injections and precise calibration. Human ships could cross the galaxy on a single fuel load and still have enough left over for combat maneuvers. Captain Elena Vasquez tested the new ship's combat capabilities. A week later, she faced off against captured Federation drones in mock battles, using weapons and tactics that no alien had ever seen. The drones moved with computer precision, calculating optimal firing solutions and executing perfect tactical formations. Vasquez ignored their calculations completely. She flew her ship like she was dancing, making moves that seemed random, but always put her exactly where she needed to be. "Target destroyed," her weapons officer reported as another drone exploded. "That makes 12. How many are left?" "None, Captain. You destroyed the entire squadron." Vasquez had accomplished something no Federation pilot had ever managed. She had defeated multiple opponents using inferior weapons and a supposedly primitive ship. The secret was simple. She could think and react faster than any computer when her life depended on it. On Earth, General Paul Mitchell watched training exercises that would have amazed the galaxy's military experts. Human soldiers were learning to fight without any electronic support, using only their eyes, ears, and instincts to navigate battlefields. Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Hayes led one such exercise, taking his men through an abandoned city where every piece of technology had been disabled. No communications, no sensors, no targeting computers. Just humans working together to accomplish their mission. "Contact left," shouted one soldier. Hayes moved his squad without radios or tactical displays, using hand signals and voice commands. That had been refined over thousands of years of human warfare. His men flowed around obstacles like water, each one anticipating what his teammates would do next. The exercise ended with Hayes's team successfully capturing their objective. In half the time it would have taken Federation forces with full technological support. The difference was simple. Humans could function as a unit, even when their equipment failed. Dr. Susan Parker made her own breakthrough when she studied captured alien equipment that had been damaged beyond repair. Federation technology was incredibly advanced, but it had a fatal weakness that no one had noticed before. "Look at this power coupling," she said to her engineering team. "One component failure and the entire system shuts down. There is no redundancy, no backup systems." Parker compared it to human equipment from the Iron Resolution Project. Human technology was built like human bodies, with multiple ways to accomplish the same task. If one system failed, another would take over automatically. Federation species have never learned to build things that can break and keep working, Parker realized. They assume their technology will always function perfectly. This discovery led to a new philosophy in human engineering. Instead of building perfect systems, they built systems that could survive damage and keep functioning. Their ships could lose half their components and still fight. Their weapons could be knocked around and still fire accurately. The breakthrough that changed everything came when Carter's biological research met Webb's engineering innovations. Working together, they discovered that human intuition was actually a form of biological computer that could process information faster than any artificial intelligence. When humans say they have a gut feeling about something, they are processing thousands of variables unconsciously. Carter explained to Admiral Rodriguez during his latest visit to the research facility. Our brains evolved to make split-second decisions with incomplete information. Rodriguez watched demonstrations where human pilots outperformed sophisticated computer systems simply by trusting their instincts. The Federation thinks we are stupid because we do not calculate everything. Exactly. But calculation takes time. Instinct is instant. Carter showed him brain scans of humans making rapid decisions. We can evaluate a complex situation and choose the best response faster than their computers can even identify all the variables. The implications for space combat were enormous. Federation ships relied on targeting computers that needed time to calculate firing solutions. Human gunners could hit moving targets by feel, adjusting their aim based on intuition that processed more information than any computer. Word of these discoveries spread through the hidden human network. On every colony world, people began testing their abilities against Federation technology. The results were always the same. Humans could do things that aliens thought were impossible. Factory workers increased production rates when they stopped using alien automation and went back to working with their hands. Farmers grew more food using traditional methods than they had with Federation agricultural systems. Engineers solved problems in minutes that had stumped alien computers for days. But the most important discovery came from Dr. Parker's analysis of Federation society itself. She had studied their culture, their history, and their biology, looking for weaknesses that humans could exploit. They have forgotten how to fail, she reported to Mitchell. Every Federation species has been successful for so long that they have no experience dealing with setbacks. Mitchell studied her report. What happens when they fail? They panic. Look at these historical records. Any time a Federation colony faced a crisis that their technology could not solve immediately, they abandoned it rather than trying to find alternative solutions. This was humanity's ultimate advantage. Humans had spent their entire history failing and trying again. They had built civilizations from nothing, survived disasters that would have destroyed other species, and learned from every mistake. The Federation had never learned how to lose a battle and still win a war. They had never learned how to succeed when their first plan failed. Most importantly, they had never learned how to be strong when everything went wrong. As the 5th anniversary of the rejection approached, Mitchell called together the leaders of Iron Resolution for a final meeting. They gathered in the same asteroid facility where the project had begun, but now it was 10 times larger and filled with technologies that no alien had ever imagined. The Federation is moving, Mitchell announced. Intelligence reports indicate they will begin their operation against us within the month. Rodriguez looked around the room at the faces of men and women who had spent 5 years preparing for this moment. Are we ready? Mitchell smiled. Admiral, we are about to teach the galaxy what happens when you underestimate human strength. Outside the facility, human ships built with human hands using human technology prepared for a war that would determine the fate of both humanity and every enslaved species in Federation space. The aliens had rejected humanity because they were too primitive to join their advanced civilization. They were about to learn that sometimes primitive was exactly what the galaxy needed. The emergency message arrived at dawn on every human world simultaneously. Admiral Jake Morrison, pulled from retirement to lead the war effort, read the transmission with growing horror. The peaceful Andrari, humanity's only allies in the Federation, were under attack. Morrison stood in the command center on Luna Base, watching reports stream in from across Andrari space. The hegemony had launched a massive assault using crystal ships that could shatter planets. Their excuse was simple. The Andrari had committed treason by supporting primitive humans. How long do they have? Morrison asked. Captain Elena Vasquez, now promoted to Admiral, studied the tactical displays. Maybe 3 days before their homeworld falls. The hegemony is using overwhelming force. Morrison had aged in the 5 years since the rejection, but his eyes still burned with determination. How many ships can we deploy? 47 combat vessels, all using the new human technology. It is not much against a hegemony fleet. General Paul Mitchell entered the command center carrying classified files. It is going to have to be enough. This is our first real test against Federation forces. The rescue fleet launched within 6 hours, faster than any Federation force could have mobilized. Human ships did not need weeks of preparation and supply calculations. They carried everything they needed and could operate independently for months. Admiral Ben Rodriguez commanded the lead squadron aboard the newly built ship Freedom's Edge. Unlike the sleek Federation vessels, human ships looked crude and functional. Thick armor plating covered essential systems. Multiple backup engines provided redundancy that alien engineers thought was wasteful. All ships, this is Rodriguez, he broadcast to the fleet. We are about to face an enemy that thinks we are. Too primitive to be dangerous. Let us prove them wrong. The journey to Andrari space took 4 days at maximum speed. Federation quantum drives could have made the trip in 2 days, but they would have needed to stop twice for exotic matter refueling. The human fleet arrived ready to fight immediately. What they found was a massacre. Hegemony crystal ships surrounded the Andrari homeworld like a deadly constellation. The planet's surface showed the scars of orbital bombardment. Andrari defense stations burned in space, their elegant designs no match for hegemony firepower. "My God," whispered Rodriguez's weapons. "Officer, there must be over 100 enemy ships." Rodriguez activated the fleet communication system. "All ships, execute Battle Plan Alpha. Remember, we are not here to win a pretty victory. We are here to save lives." The human fleet split into small groups and attacked from multiple directions. This confused the hegemony commanders, who expected humans to follow Federation tactical doctrine with formal battle lines and coordinated maneuvers. Captain Ryan Hayes led the first attack run in his ship Defiant Spirit. Hegemony energy weapons locked onto his vessel and fired brilliant beams that should have destroyed any ship instantly. Instead, the beams struck thick armor plating that absorbed the energy and dispersed it harmlessly. "Direct hit on enemy vessel Zeta 7, reported Hayes' gunner. "Their shields are down." The hegemony had never faced kinetic weapons fired by human intuition rather than computer targeting. Their shield systems, designed to stop energy weapons, offered little protection against metal projectiles moving at incredible speeds. Hayes brought his ship in close to the enemy, too close for proper Federation tactics. At point-blank range, human weapons punched through crystal hulls like they were made of glass. The first hegemony ship exploded in a shower of brilliant fragments. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out as human ships proved that sometimes simple was better than sophisticated. Federation commanders watching from long-range sensors could not understand what they were seeing. Admiral Vasquez led the most dangerous mission of the battle. She took 6 ships directly into the enemy formation to rescue Andrari civilians from a damaged space station. Federation doctrine said this was suicide, but Vasquez had learned to trust human instincts over alien logic. "Station Commander, this is Admiral Vasquez of the human fleet," she broadcast. "We are here to get you out." The Andrari commander's voice was weak but grateful. "Admiral, there are thousands of civilians aboard. Our evacuation systems are damaged." "Then, we do this the hard way. Prepare for boarding operations." Vasquez brought her ship alongside the station while hegemony vessels closed in from all sides. Human soldiers in basic spacesuits crossed between the ships, carrying civilians who could not survive in the vacuum of space. That the rescue operation took precious minutes, while enemy fire grew heavier. Federation forces would have calculated the odds and retreated, but humans had learned that some things were worth any risk. "Last group is aboard," reported the boarding team leader. "Station is clear. All ships withdraw to safe distance. Vasquez ordered. The human fleet pulled back as the space station exploded under hegemony fire. But they had saved over 3,000 Andrari lives using methods that no Federation tactician would have attempted. The battle's turning point came when Rodriguez realized that hegemony ships had a critical weakness. Their crystal hulls conducted energy perfectly, making them nearly invulnerable to energy weapons. But this same property made them vulnerable to electromagnetic pulses. All ships switch to EMP torpedoes, Rodriguez commanded. Target their command vessels first. Human engineers had developed MP weapons as a backup system, never expecting to use them in actual combat. The Federation had abandoned such primitive weapons centuries ago in favor of more elegant solutions. The torpedoes struck hegemony command ships and sent electromagnetic pulses through their crystal hulls. Every electronic system aboard shut down instantly. The mighty crystal vessels became floating rocks, helpless and blind. Enemy fleet is withdrawing, reported the tactical officer. They are requesting a ceasefire. Morrison, commanding the operation from his flagship, opened a VAW channel to the hegemony commander. The alien's translated voice sounded shocked and confused. How did you disable our ships? Your weapons are primitive kinetic systems. Sometimes primitive works better than advanced, Morrison replied. Your people made the mistake of thinking that newer always means better. The hegemony fleet limped away, leaving behind 17 destroyed vessels and thousands of rescued Andrari civilians. For the first time in Federation history, a human force had defeated a major alien military operation. News of the battle spread across the galaxy within hours. Species that had never heard of humans suddenly knew their name. The primitive apes had defeated the mighty hegemony using weapons that the Federation had discarded as obsolete. On Earth, Dr. Amy Carter analyzed battle recordings with growing excitement. Look at this, she told her research team. Human reaction times during combat averaged 40% faster than computer-assisted Federation forces. The implications were staggering. Under combat stress, humans did not slow down like other species. They accelerated, becoming more dangerous as situations became more desperate. But the victory came with a price. Chancellor Vex of the Zephyrian Empire addressed the Federation Council within days of the battle. His message was broadcast across the galaxy for all to hear. The human threat has become clear, Vex announced. Their primitive violence has corrupted the peaceful Andrari and now threatens galactic stability. The Federation Council declares a state of emergency. The formal declaration followed quickly. Humanity was now classified as a hostile species, requiring immediate containment. Federation fleets began moving toward human space with orders to establish a blockade. Morrison received the war declaration while visiting the rescued Andrari on temporary colonies. The feathered beings gathered around him as he read the message. Aloud, "They say we are the threat," Morrison said quietly. "They attack you for helping us, then claim we are the violent ones." An elderly Andrari elder stepped forward. "Admiral Morrison, my people have served the Federation for 800 years. We have seen them destroy dozens of species who threatened their control. You are not the first to be declared primitive for refusing to submit. What happened to the others? They are gone, extinct or enslaved. You are the first species strong enough to fight back." Morrison looked at the faces around him, beings who had lost their homeworld for the crime of showing kindness to humans. "Then we will fight for all of them." As Federation fleets moved toward human space, Morrison began preparing for a war that would determine the fate of the galaxy. Humanity had won their first battle, but the real test was just beginning. The Federation had called humans primitive for relying on strength instead of technology. Now they would learn what human strength could accomplish when it was focused on a single goal: freedom for every species the Federation had oppressed. The war for the galaxy had begun, and humanity intended to finish it. The Federation's final assault on Earth began at dawn. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the command bunker beneath the Colorado Mountains, watching hundreds of alien ships descend through the atmosphere like falling stars. Each vessel was larger and more advanced than anything humans had ever built, but Morrison was not afraid. "Sir, they are broadcasting surrender demands," reported his communications officer. Morrison read the message on his screen. Chancellor, Vex demanded humanity's immediate submission. All human technology would be confiscated. The species would be relocated to labor camps where they could serve the Federation's needs. The message ended with a warning that resistance would result in total extinction. "Send them our reply," Morrison said calmly. "Tell them that Earth does not surrender." The Federation had made a critical mistake. They had given humanity 6 months to prepare for this moment, and humans had used every day wisely. Deep underground, connected by tunnels carved through solid rock, lay a network of shelters that could house the planet's entire population. Dr. Amy Carter coordinated the civilian evacuation from her command post in the Rocky Mountain complex. All sectors report successful withdrawal. 6 billion people are now in protected facilities. The bunkers were marvels of human engineering, built without any Federation technology. Massive blast doors could withstand orbital bombardment. Air recycling systems could function for years without maintenance. Food production facilities grew crops in artificial environments that no alien weapon could reach. Above ground, Federation. Forces expected to find human cities full of helpless civilians. Instead, they found empty streets and abandoned buildings. Automated defense systems activated as soon as alien troops touched the surface, firing weapons that Federation computers could not predict or counter. Admiral Ben Rodriguez commanded the space battle from his flagship in high orbit. The human fleet was outnumbered 50-1, but they fought with tactics that made numbers irrelevant. "All ships, execute scatter pattern 7, Rodriguez ordered. The human vessels broke formation and spread across the solar system. Federation commanders tried to follow, but their ships moved in predictable patterns that human captains could anticipate perfectly. Captain Alana Vasquez brought her squadron in fast and low, using Earth's gravity to accelerate beyond what Federation sensors thought possible. Her ships struck the enemy formation like hammers, kinetic weapons punching through shields that were useless against physical projectiles. "Enemy command ship is disabled," her weapons officer reported. "They are requesting assistance." "Negative," Vasquez replied. "Let them drift. Move to the next target." This was not the elegant space warfare that Federation species preferred. Human combat was brutal and direct, focusing on destroying enemy capabilities rather than following proper protocols. The ground war proved even more challenging for the Federation forces. General Paul Mitchell had spent months preparing for urban combat that would showcase every human advantage. Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Hayes led the defense of what used to be Denver. His soldiers moved through tunnels and sewers that connected every building in the city. When Federation troops secured one area, humans would emerge from underground and attack them from behind. "Contact on level 7, reported one of Hayes's sergeants. Looks like a full Zephyrian platoon." Hayes studied the tactical situation. The aliens moved in perfect formation, their advanced sensors mapping every room before they entered. But sensors could not detect humans hiding in spaces too small for alien bodies. "Team 3, move to flanking position," Hayes whispered into his radio. "Team 1, prepare grenades." The battle lasted less than 5 minutes. Federation soldiers, trained to fight with computer assistance and long-range weapons, had no experience with close-quarters combat. Human soldiers who had trained their entire lives to fight with their hands overwhelmed them completely. Across the planet, Similar scenes played out in every major city. Federation forces found themselves fighting an enemy that refused to follow the rules of civilized warfare. Humans appeared from nowhere, struck hard, and disappeared before retaliation could arrive. But the real turning point came when Dr. Susan Parker executed the plan she had been developing for 2 years. Working from her laboratory deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, she activated a signal that reached every Federation ship simultaneously. "What was that?" asked Admiral Morrison, watching energy readings spike across all enemy vessels. Every piece of Federation technology contains the same basic computer components. Parker explained over the communication system. I found a way to overload them all at once. The results were immediate and devastating. Federation ships that had dominated space for centuries suddenly lost power as their sophisticated computers crashed. Weapons systems shut down. Life support failed. Navigation computers displayed error messages in languages that no longer existed. In the space of 30 seconds, the most advanced fleet in galactic history became a collection of floating debris. Ships designed to function perfectly in controlled environments had no backup systems when their primary computers failed. Rodriguez watched enemy vessels drift helplessly through space. All human ships, begin rescue operations. Save who you can. This order confused the Federation survivors. They had come to destroy humanity, but humans were risking their own lives to save enemy soldiers whose ships had lost life support. Chancellor Vex found himself aboard a human rescue vessel, breathing human air and drinking human water while his own people died in the vacuum of space. When Morrison came to speak with him, Vex could barely understand what had happened. "How did you do this?" Vex asked weakly. "Your technology is primitive. Your weapons are crude. Your tactics violate every principle of civilized warfare." Morrison sat across from the alien leader in the ship's small medical bay. "You made a mistake, Chancellor. You thought that advanced meant better. You forgot that simple things work when complex things fail. But we had superior numbers, better weapons, faster ships. You had computers that thought for you, machines that fought for you, and systems that made decisions for you." Morrison's voice was patient but firm. "When those failed, you had nothing left." Reports came in from across the galaxy as news of the Federation's defeat spread. On dozens of worlds, enslaved species began their own rebellions. They had watched the broadcasts of humans fighting with primitive weapons and winning against impossible odds. The coral worlds declared independence within hours. The machine worlds, populated by artificial intelligences that had served organic masters for millennia, announced they would govern themselves. Species that had forgotten their own strength remembered what freedom looked like. Dr. Carter received the most important message 3 days after the battle ended. It came from a planet in the outer rim where a species called the Builders had been forced to construct Federation facilities for 500 years. "Human friends," the message began, "we have broken our chains as you broke yours. We ask not for your technology or your weapons, but for your example. Teach us how to be strong with our own hands." Similar requests arrived from across the galaxy. Species that had been rejected by the Federation, enslaved by the Federation, or simply ignored by the Federation wanted to learn the human way of doing things. Morrison found himself addressing the new Galactic Assembly 6 months later. The Federation Council had dissolved when half its member species declared independence. In its place, representatives from over 200 worlds gathered to write new laws based on cooperation rather than domination. "We do not seek to replace the Federation with human rule," Morrison told the Assembly. "We seek to build something better. A galaxy where every species develops according to its nature, where strength comes from within rather than from machines." The open-hand accords that emerged from these meetings guaranteed every species the right to develop their own technology, govern their own worlds, and solve their own problems. Trade would be voluntary. Cooperation would be by choice. No species would be declared too primitive for membership. Dr. Parker presented her final research to the Assembly, showing how the Federation's greatest weakness had been their fear of failure. They created systems so perfect that they forgot how to adapt when those systems broke down. Humans never forgot that sometimes things go wrong, and that makes us stronger. The galaxy learned that day that true advancement was not about building better machines, but about building better people. Technology should serve life, not replace it. Strength should come from within, not from external tools. Earth became the new diplomatic center, not because humans had conquered the galaxy, but because they had freed it. Species that had been enemies for centuries came to human mediators to resolve their conflicts peacefully. Admiral Rodriguez, now retired, often stood on the observation deck of Luna Base, watching ships from hundreds of worlds come and go. Each vessel was different, built according to the unique nature of its creators, rather than copied from Federation templates. The rejections that had once seemed like humanity's greatest failure had become their greatest gift, while other species had become dependent on Federation technology. Humans had remained true to their own nature. When the test came, that nature had proven stronger than any machine.